Hey everybody, welcome to a very special edition of My Car Shop. Today we're going to get down and serious and talk about how can we afford to do this stuff. It's expensive. Let's get into it.
Working out of a 100-year-old refurbished barn, bringing 35 years of experience to projects considered beyond repair. Vision, creativity, and problem solving are essential tools in this place. Watch as we transform junk into polished metal miracles. This is My Cars Shop.
Okay, so I'm on a road trip. First of all, let me clarify that I had hoped to be doing another shop episode today, but I had a little bit of a medical emergency yesterday, and I'm actually heading to the doctor right now as a follow-up. Everything's fine, but a little bit of a scare there yesterday, so I won't get into the details, but everything's good, so no problem. But I wanted to get into cost. So we all get into these projects and get in over our heads, and we get discouraged, and we don't think we have the skills. We realize we don't have the money to do this. We're in way over our head, and that's something I want to talk about today. The costs in time, costs in money, costs in blood, energy, space, strains on relationships. There's a million costs to doing this. Tools and equipment, if I didn't mention that. There's just a lot of cost, and I think that's a subject that's worth delving into. When we're working on projects, it's really easy to get in over our head in one or all of those areas. Now, you can view them as obstacles, as something that is a showstopper, and that's your choice, or you can view them as challenges to be overcome. There's always a way through every challenge that comes along. And it's up to us to figure out what that way is. So go back to some of my early days. I started doing projects when I was in high school in the early 80s. The very first vehicle I did was actually a 70 Dodge pickup, 383 4-speed, big block 2-wheel drive. Never completed that truck. I got it running, had fun ripping up and down the road with it, doing burnouts, stuff like that. But I quickly came across a 68 Roadrunner clone, put that motor in that car, switched it to an automatic. First day on the road, my dad was actually driving it and burnt the transmission out. Lots of problems. I was supposed to take my girlfriend to the prom in it, and that didn't work out. So I ended up taking my dad's Chevette. Woohoo! That was exciting. Wasn't quite the prom that I had planned on, showing up in my red and black bumblebee striped 68 Plymouth Roadrunner, but was in over my head. So I got discouraged, and I ended up swapping the car off for a 72 Demon, got into that car. I did get that car on the road. I also received a 73 Plymouth Duster for graduation. Turns out the frame was rotted on that car at the Duster tilt. At that point in my life, I didn't have skills, so I stripped the car, junked it, put the Demon on the road, drove that for a couple years, ended up wrecking that, traded it off for something else, and I don't even remember what anymore. And that's kind of the way my early days in automotive stuff was, where I was getting over my head, or I burned out, or I would get tired of a project, and I would just quit and move on to something else. Well, when I went to tech school in Indianapolis, that's actually where I wrecked the Demon. I rear-ended somebody. Brakes went out, and I hit him. But I ended up picking up a 68 Dodge Dart GT. And I had that car for quite a few years for me. Did the body work on it, never got it painted at that point. That came later. Got a good running 318 in it, blew that up. Put a 360 in it, blew that up. Put another 318 in it. I think I blew that up also. It wasn't a Mopar problem. It was the nut behind the wheel. So I blew up, I think it was actually 2 engines in that car. And then just parked it, picked up a 78 Aspen RT, drove that. Good car, nothing wrong with it. Did some body work on it, customization on it. Drove that to college. One spring break, got the wild idea that I wanted to put the GT back on the road. Drove back from college, pulled the motor out of the Aspen, sold that car. Somebody just happened to drive by and want it, and I sold it on the spot, put the 318 in, and drove the GT back to college. It's kind of the craziness of my early days. I had the GT for quite a while, and then we were living in northern Michigan. I was working in a hot rod shop. I didn't really have a lot of time to work on projects. I was working on customer cars all the time. So I decided to paint the car, and in the process of when I was painting it, I ended up making a deal with a buddy of mine for a four-wheel drive truck. I'm living in northern Michigan, the UP, Upper Peninsula. I ended up with that. So all through this process, though, there's one thing that I was gaining. I was building a wealth. None of this was costing me much money, but what I was doing was building a particular set of skills in my best Liam Neeson voice. I was learning how to do paint. I'd never painted a car before. So I painted the Dart. I actually took on a job for a customer and painted a little Toyota pickup. If you follow on Instagram, you will see the car that I painted. Well, you'll see the Dart that's on there on Facebook and Instagram. There's a blue 68 Dodge Dart. Maybe I'll try to remember to insert that picture here. But the car that I did that was my first real show quality car was a 62 T-Bird convertible. My philosophy at that point was if I'm going to learn how to do something, I'm going to get paid to do it rather than pay to do it. So this guy knew I worked at the rod shop. I'd seen a little of the paintwork I did and said, why don't you paint my 62 T-Bird convertible on the side? So I did. The car turned out gorgeous. I had no clue what I was doing. I'd sprayed paint. I'd learned enough, but I just dove into it. The car turned out straight, shiny, painted it in a house garage, so we had a few bugs in the paint. I managed to wheel most of that out. Single stage enamel or dual stage enamel, epoxy cured enamel, and turned out good. So now I've got a set of skills under my belt, and part of the payment for the job was my wire welder that I still have to this day. So you see how this is going. I'm gaining skills. I'm investing in myself and my abilities, not putting out much money, and I'm getting paid to learn. Where there's a will, there's a way. So let's go back to the Facebook post. $75,000 to restore that Challenger? Absolutely. That is without a question what you would spend on that car if you were farming out the work, if you were buying all new panels. If you couldn't paint, you're going to have $20,000 into a paint job. That's what I charge it. That's the starting rate for a paint job. That's what I charge anymore. If I've got a car that needs work, I'm not just scuffing and shooting it. Nothing gets a good show quality job without stripping it. You're talking minimum $20,000. I had a Barracuda that came convertible that came for me to paint, and I said I need a $10,000 deposit. It's going to be a minimum $20,000, probably more like $30,000. They didn't want me to do the job. People wanted a paint job like my '47 Ford, but don't realize how much time I'd have 1,000 hours in that car. I wouldn't make much money. It costs a lot. Yes, it does, but you can do so much yourself. It doesn't have to be done perfect. When my son was doing his Challenger, one of the things he discovered with metal is if you screw it up, cut it out, do it again. Metal's fixable. Metal is much more forgiving than wood, right, Mark? You can't weld back to wood. You can use putty, whatever, but most of the time you just made firewood and you got to start over again. With metal, that's not true. There is a point of no return in metal, but it's a lot more forgiving than wood. So I've done a ton of cars for other people. I've done cars professionally. I've worked in a couple of body shops, hot rod shops, 3 of them actually. And all the while, what am I doing? I'm building a bank account. I'm building a bank account of skill that I'm getting paid for rather than paying for. I'm not paying somebody else to do this stuff. I'm doing it myself. And lo and behold, I get better. I start building the Pro Street Dart now. I've never tubbed a car in my life. I had no idea what I was doing. I researched and studied and planned for a year before I cut that car apart. I had thorough knowledge, on paper at least, of what needed to happen, and just enough rudimentary skills to pull it off and make that car what it is today. In the meantime, I picked up a 1931 Ford Model A. You've seen pictures of that on Facebook and on Instagram. Restored that car. I'll insert that here somewhere too, probably. Restored that car. My son Joe was just a little shaver, and there's pictures of him helping me strip the paint off the car. There's pictures of him helping me on that car. He's also working with me when I'm pro streeting the 68 GTS. I'm not only have skill now, but I'm passing that on to my son. And you will see that come through later in the 68 Charger that he did that went from a total General Lee wreck. Somebody jumped, somebody got plowed into with it, bent the frame, to a gorgeous, straight as an arrow, sharp 69, big block 4-speed, black, triple black Charger. So now I not only have enough skills for myself, but I can teach others these skills. And I'm by no means like Matt at Iron Trap Garage, who's a craftsman beyond belief. I'm not like that. I'm not a Gene Winfield. I'm not a painter or designer like Chip Foose or some of these real high-end painters, but I've got rudimentary skills and I can turn out some good product. So am I going to spend, have I ever spent $70,000 to do a car? Absolutely not. I would very guess to say that I don't have more than $20,000 into any one of the cars that I own as far as investment in cash. And I think that's very generous. I think it's more like 10 at the most. Now, that's a lot of money for some people. That's a lot of money for me. I'm not well off. But it's a lifetime of doing things. I sold the Model A to do the 47, so I had a good chunk of cash to start that project with. You flip cars, you pick up, you find deals, you sell parts. You make the hobby pay for itself. That's how you do it. If you don't have a big bankroll. I know guys that their toolbox is their checkbook. Their tool is the pen, and they just write a check. And there's nothing wrong with that if you have the resources. I don't. So back to the Challenger. The Challenger needs 2 rear frame rails. It needs all the floor pans, basically from front to back. The front end of the car is good. It needs quarter panels. It needs fenders. It needs doors. That's a lot of money. I would have probably $8,000 just in the metal alone. That may be a bit generous, but I'm not so sure that it is by the time I add it all up. Trunk floor, interior car floor, flame rails, doors, fenders, quarter panels, new roof. It should have had a new roof, but I'm straightening that. So yeah, $10,000 is probably, then a paint job. If I can't paint it myself, if I can't do the body work myself, there's going to be $20,000 to $30,000 in a paint job. We're up to $50,000. Then what about chrome? Then what about all the lights and tail lights and trim that it's missing? $75,000? That's probably pretty darn slim for a car that's going to be worth, honestly, $40,000 or $50,000. But if you follow the channel, you will see that I've been buying tools and equipment. I've done this work for years without them, but I decided that I was going to take it a bit further, to step up the quality of my work, get a bead roll or a sheet metal brake, building a pipe anvil. I got the shrinker stretcher tools. I can do a lot more work. As you've seen on the 74 Swinger, we use the shrinker stretcher, we use the sheet metal brake, and we're able to turn out some decent patch panels that aren't seen, so we're not trying to be, crazy artistry with that. Just want stuff that's functional. On my agenda yet is still to get a TIG welder to increase the quality of the welding. Hopefully that'll happen yet this year. But now I'm almost 54 years old. I've built all these skills. I've got some of the tools. I'm going to do the frame rails myself. I'm going to do the floor plans myself. I'm going to patch up the fenders. They're fixable. I've already done the roof for the most part. Quarter panels, give or take, they're pretty cheap. I may just buy them, probably going to fix them. Passenger door that I picked up is rusty but fixable. I'm going to fix that. I could fix the driver's door. I might not if I can find a better one. The trunk lid, it's fixable. I'll be investing a lot of time. Not much money. Sheet metal's cheap. If I screw it up, cut it out, do it again. If you start when you're young, you can build these skills. If you're a bit older, you can still build these skills. It just takes determination, being willing to screw stuff up. I know some guys get really frustrated when they make mistakes. Some guys get really frustrated when they screw things up. You don't learn if you don't screw up. That's how you learn. Many guys throw their hands in the air and say, I'm done, I'm no good at this, I don't have the money. Yeah, it costs, sure. But there's a difference between spending a few $100s and spending a few $1,000s to pay somebody else to do something. That doesn't mean I never do. I definitely do pay people to do things sometimes. But for the most part, I have the skill. Sometimes I have the time, sometimes I don't. But it takes determination. And for me, quite honestly, being too stupid to know it can't be done and then going ahead and doing it anyway. In the tagline or in the intro for the show, we say taking on projects that others would pass up or others would deem unrepairable, going from junk to polished metal miracles. Well, that's really what we do at My Car Shop. It's what you can do in your car's shop too. And that's what I want to encourage you. We call it My Car Shop because my name is My Car and it's my shop. But it can be your car shop. And if you want tips, input, some advice, drop comments on the videos, ask questions. I will answer them if I can. I'll do videos just like I did on the cost. Does that Challenger need to cost me $75,000 to $100,000? Absolutely not. Would it cost that if I took it somewhere? Probably more, honestly. As I said. But as you watch these projects unfold, you see stuff go from junk to polished metal miracles, and that's what this is about. So I wanted to encourage you. Of course there's a cost. You got to buy some tools, but you don't have to have the best tools. You don't have to have all the tools. You can borrow tools. You can rent tools. You can do barter swaps. John with his 66 Belvy, we're doing a labor swap. I'm going to fix the fender and hang his quarter panel for him, show him what to do. We're going to do an episode on those. And he's going to come and give me a hand with some of my projects that I need. It's a matter of finding ways to make it happen, letting people help you out. And then when you learn it, when you know it, pay it forward. Help somebody else out. Help out a young guy. John is 20 years younger than me, at least. But as he said to me, which made me laugh because I don't think I'm old, but I am old to him, right? Right, John? I like learning from you old guys. There's all kinds of old school stuff. And working professionally, as I said, sure, I've got some skill. I've got some knowledge. Do I know everything? Absolutely not. Am I the most skilled? Absolutely not. But at the end of the day, it's about you being satisfied with the product you turn out, doing it in the budget that you can afford, and making it happen. Matt at Iron Trap Garage, or the guys down at Restored in Texas. Both great shows on YouTube. Watch their stuff. Look at Derek at Vice Grip Garage. Look at the stuff he does on a budget, shoestring. Great skills, basic skills. In Matt's case, an artist. Various levels. But these guys turn out amazing work, and they don't spend huge money doing it because they have developed a lifetime of skills. And I'm sure the first stuff that they did sucked. The stuff that I did sucked. I messed stuff up. There was, even on my 68, after I had been a certified mechanic working professionally for years, when I put that motor together, I put the cam in wrong, I had to tear it back apart again and fix it. That goes with it. Don't discourage yourself. And don't let finances get in your way. Find a creative way to make things happen. We all spend money on things that are just frivolous. We can do without a few things if we're willing to buy some car parts. It doesn't have to cost you $75,000 to do a car, but you have to invest in yourself. So that's my thoughts. Let's wrap this up. Okay, all right, that's going to do it for this episode of My Car Shop. Me just rambling while I'm driving to a doctor's appointment, but talking about the cost. Yeah, there's a cost. It doesn't have to be money. There are other costs you can pay to get what you want. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope it was a bit educational, informative. You can build a car on any budget for the most part. It's just a matter of how creative you're willing to be to do it. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. Hit the subscribe button and then hit the bell for notifications so that you know when we upload a new episode. Also want you to know that we're on Facebook and we're on Instagram /My Car Shop. Be sure to check us out. There's a lot of content that goes there that I mentioned today that you're not seeing on YouTube because we can't post that kind of stuff here yet. And spread the word, please. Tell other people. If you know people that would be interested in this stuff, by all means, let them know about it. Get them to subscribe to the channel. If you would do that for me, I'll continue putting out content that I hope is educational and entertaining for you as well. And as always, one more thing, don't forget, rock!